Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good day, ladies and gentlemen. Allahumma rabbi israli sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Uh, before the presentations, let's say to share the screen of my presentations. Yeah, I'm very pleased to be here to join this conference, CITSM, and actually this is my first times to join these programs, and it's my first times also to join these programs in online streamings presentation because the previous conference in 2019, 2018, and 17, I directly search the presentation and talks to the participant or the audience directly. But it's never mind because I'm happy and delighted to be joins this conference using the streamings. Actually, the CITSMs will be held into 23 October 2020, but this the preparations of participants to providing the video. Uh, yeah, the online conference, artificial conference held due to the coronavirus COVID-19, and that's why my topics in this conference, regarding the COVID-19 as well. Actually, the entitle of our works is the clustering and correlations method for predicting coronavirus COVID-19 risk analysis in pandemic countries. The authors consist of the 6 authors, and I'm the first authors or the main authors, Dr. Ahmad Kurniawan. Actually, I'm from Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syed Qasim Riau, Indonesia. But the sums of the co-authors from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, uh, such as Professor Siti Nurul Huda Sheikh Abdullah and Professor Muhammad Zakri Ahmad Nazri. Actually, my former supervisors in PhD before, yeah, and the co-authors from the same university with me in UIN Riau, such as Professor Ahmad Mujahidin, and this the our rector, and Dr. Fitra Lestari. So this works is from the two country and two university, UIN Riau and University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Yeah, this is the outlines that I present thing today. Consists of the four outlines, four sections, this backgrounds and methodology, and testing and results and conclusions. This is the brief presentations, I think. Okay, as we know that the COVID-19 emerged in December 2019, after the December 2019, the COVID-19 has spread to the uh, many country. Actually, based on the data of times to 100 countries in the world. Actually, more 200 currently. But based on my data in March 27, 2020, just the um, two, 200 countries in the world. The this world is motivated by our preliminary study, and I think you have heard and you have watched and televisions the probability of mortality in Indonesia reaching 8.7%. In contrast, this preceding the 5-day report that was 80.1%, and highest spike within Southeast Asia. And this is data on the Mars. And based on the epidemiologist theory, the theory of the cluster dispersion study. So uh, we think that the cluster is our keyword to make this study. Okay, and based on the our preliminary data on the March 27 and 2020. And automatic predictions via artificial intelligence, precisely the machine learning method, is available to accelerate the current study. Actually, there are many study conducted by several researchers using the artificial intelligence, uh, like their forecasting, predicting, classification, as well as and clustering as well were applied for analyze the spread of COVID-19 and related words. So that the lack of data and risk analysis and is there our gaps, uh, even though the forecasting, predicting, and clustering and many so on of the artificial intelligence that use for the predicting the COVID-19, but the some previous study lack of the data and lack of the risk analysis. Yeah, they use the forecasting, but the only one in forecasting, the only one of the predicting and classification as well. And we know that the knowledge of the relationships between the attribute is essential to know to determine appropriate the preventions and mitigation methods. And this also appears so that the our goal is to preventions and mitigations method information that we provide to the policy makers. And so that's why uh, we we decide the we will use hybridizations of the clustering, especially k-means and correlations metrics. This hybridization of the techniques, because the previous study just only use the forecasting, just only use the predicting, but we decided to combine our hybrids, the clustering and correlation metrics, because we're gonna uh, obtain effective, simple, and find out the hidden relationship between the component in the data, because our objective is for the risk analysis of COVID-19 and predicting as well. Okay, this is the material and methods. Uh, After we decide the algorithms and the technique that we will use uh, for the research, such as the material and methods, we begin in retrieve corona. I think this is the brief figures for the describing our methods. Retrieve the coronavirus outbreak COVID-19 data. Actually, we obtain the data from the one just one source, worthometers. I think you have heard the worthometers. Uh, and the data processing, actually, we use the 5 month observations in March until the August. And this data ours integrates and we have done by the cleaning and to tackle the outliers in the data processing task. After the data is the clean and can use for the clustering models, This data we will employ for the correlations clustering models. Best I mentioned just now, we use the two technique, the hybrid of the two technique, correlations and clustering models. And this the after the correlation and clustering model have done, we continue to the testing and evaluation if the result is valid. So this okay, this complete, and this the finish. If it is not valid or something the problems in this states, so we can will back to clustering all the correlations to make the model. And this figure is a brief methodology, I think, for the clustering and correlations metrics. Okay, and this the our experimental testings. Yeah, our experimental testings. Yeah, the I want to highlight this study is not just for the cluster, but we will show you how to choose the best number of clusters, because some for researchers just use the 10 of number clusters or the 30 or so on. So how we can choose the best number of the clusters. This is the parameters that we use distance functions, and initialization method, max iteration. I think this same value that we will use. And then total number of the items and the number of cluster. Yeah, we have done the experimental testing using the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 experimental testing that difference number of cluster. If we choose the 5 number of cluster, we will find the 70% of the performance, and the cluster sum of square errors is like this. And this the difference results that we obtain. Yeah, this that show you if you want to choose the performance or the cluster number index, you can choose or set the 5 number of cluster or the lowest number of the clusters, because you will find the 97% cluster number index. And if you choose the more number of the cluster, you will decrease the cluster number performance. But if you choose the many number of the cluster, you will find the lowest the cluster sum of square errors. But the time taken aspects, I think is same. Yeah, and but the difference is only for the cluster number and with the cluster and depend on you, depend on your objective. Okay, but in this work we focus on the 5 number of cluster, because we want to know the cluster number index performance is best. So we just use the 5 number of cluster. Okay, and this is the results. And this the results. This the table that can you see based on the several attribute like the total cases, total edits, total recover, active cases, serious critical, and the probabilities recover, probabilities cluster, and silhouette the score. And this is the our objectives, the cluster, and this is the our time, March 27, 2020. And based on the result, you can see the Indonesia and the Southeast Asia is in the same group on same clusters, cluster one, and the USA and Italy is the cluster 4. Spain cluster 2 with the Germans, and China in cluster 3, and I think this the only in China in the cluster 3. And this the graphic or the simulations you can see, and this the yellow quadrants is the France, then Iran, and this the Italy and USA, and this the only China, and Spain and Germany, and other country is in this group. Yeah, this the best on the general aspect. General aspect is meant that this attribute total cases and so on. And then for the another aspects like probability of dates, you can see based on the probability of dates, the Indonesia is near to the Italy, Iran, Spain, Iraq, and as the information, this country is the most positive COVID-19 in the world in this time, in that time. Okay. Uh, and this figure 2 and figure 3 based on this the best on the general aspect, and this the based on the probability of dates, and the time is the March 27 and 2020. Okay, after we cluster the count the two hundreds country in the world, we use the data general aspects to find out the relationship among the attributes, the total cases, new cases, new dates, total recover, active cases, stress critical, death probability, recover probability, and we found that these numbers. Okay, based on this, the theory, if the number near to positive one is the strong positive correlations. But if the uh, like this, like this number and like this numbers is not the strong positive but negative, strong negative correlations. Uh, and you can see, for example, in active cases, 0.9 to the total cases. This means that this the positive strong correlations. If it means that if the active cases increase, so will the increase to in the total cases. Okay, but in this recover probability to the active cases, if the recover probability increase, so the active cases is decrease. So it's that's strong negative correlations. Okay, and the next testing is we yeah, we want to comparing the result of analysis March 27 to 16 August, 16 August and 2020. It means that 5 months of our observations. And in the August 16th, the results still indicate a strong positive linear correlations, namely 0.9 at the number of COVID-19 cases in the world with the total death, and 0.9 among the total death with the patient categorized as critical. And this still high risk in the COVID-19, but in the general aspect in the 200 countries in the world. But we know that in Indonesia, the probability of mortality in Indonesia continues to decrease, reaching the 4.4 persons, and this then contrast to the preceding March 27 report was the 8.7%. And as well, recover probability Indonesia continue to rise rapidly, attainment 66.7 percent. Yeah, even though the stronger positive linear correlation is still high in general aspect in the world, but Indonesia uh, in probability of the mortality continues to decrease, and the recovery probability rise attainment 66.7%. This the best our results. So what is our conclusions? So based on the 5 months of observation in pandemic countries in the world, correlation metric results still indicated a strong positive correlations among the total deaths with the patient categorized as critical. This relations means that many patients who classify as critical have not recovered. This is our opinion. And then the result based on the existing data from the one source that I mentioned just now, we use the word meters, just the only one source, and we have future work is suggested to use data from various reliable and integrated sources to overcome missing value. Yeah, currently I think there are many sources that can you find for the conducted the study regarding the COVID-19. And yeah, this we are having these results as the knowledge that can assist the Center for Control of Disease, CDC, in critical decision making, such as precise mitigation response, countermeasures, and in infections control from the time to time, because we just use the 5 month observations that we show you very dynamically the results. And I think in October the data has changed, so you can use the updated data for conducting the predicting, conducting the risk analysis, and so on. I think that's all this the brief presentation. And if you have the questions, I think you can uh, yeah yeah, you can call me, or you can email me and Rahmat Kurniawan at UIN suska.ac.id, and you can find me in the paper. You can refer the paper for the context for the teachers. Okay, thank you, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.